So at ELF, we believe that youth engagement has to be meaningful. So what does it take for the government to engage meaningfully with young people and involve them in the process of development?
Well, the first thing is putting them through school and giving them a good and decent education and getting them to understand the issues. If they don't understand the issues, they might combine anger and disappointment, which is justified with bad policies and bad options, including resorting to a gratuitous violence or destruction of property, which is wrong. At worst, it might get rid of a government and replace it with worse. I saw the demonstrations in Khartoum, 2019, which were about food actually at the beginning. Bashir left, who was a baleful dictator. What has followed is much worse. Much, much worse. So let's be careful. So it's good for them to know that you can get what you want to go without necessarily ruining your country. All of that is part of education. Understanding what fiscal policy is about, how taxes and budgets and whatever are constructed when they work and work well for the sake of young people. But when all is said and done, they now constitute the majority of our population. By dint of that fact alone, they deserve to be heard. The right policies will come out of a debate and a discussion, enlightened discussion between themselves and policymakers. They have a right to express their disappointment. When they say we're not seeing a future for ourselves and are ready to die now, that's not an easy thing for somebody to say, particularly when they're so young. So there is a sense of pain in their soul, which is being expressed to us. So we need to listen to them, but also somebody who is good enough to hold their hand and say, I hear you. Join me in looking for a constructive path, because you love this country so much that you wrapped yourself in the flag. And you should not take that lightly. You
speak so passionately about leadership. Perhaps you can talk a bit about now your role at ELF. And what you've contributed, what you're excited to see, and what you're looking forward to see.
I think we had, interesting, you're talking about Vision 2030. At the launch of the Kenya Vision 2030, the president had a speech. And the head of your ELF, at that time it was just an idea, came and made a speech on behalf of youth. And the president said, she has said almost everything I was about to say so eloquently, and I will not read this speech. Take what she has said and implement it, integrate it into your development plans. That's how ELF began. And Karo had the acuity to come to my office and say, I'm putting together a board, can you chair? And I said, yes, if that's what you want to do. And then at the beginning it was hard, because you had to start from zero, putting together. But she's a very determined person. She's a good example of leadership, because you sacrifice and keep your focus. Never lose the goal in mind, because you could get sidetracked, and put the resources together. Sometimes things go bad. But she kept and sustained. I'm lucky, and I consider myself privileged, because I was chairing the board and helping along until the institution found its feet. And then we left, and a new generation took over. And that's the way things are supposed to work.
Perhaps now let's talk about what it has meant for you to look up to other people, but also to mentor. Mentorship, I think, is one very key aspect of growth in every aspect of our lives. What has it meant for you to mentor others and to also receive mentorship?
Because I received mentorship and so much encouragement from my teachers, people who, I went to good schools, Mount Mangu High School in those days. And the idea was, look, you're going to have a position of leadership in this country.
Yes.
Work hard, do this.
Yes.
Be honest. Moral issues are an important part of early training and leadership.
Yes.
We have lost that because our schools now emphasize the score. The average out of whatever it is, that this school got 10. The boy got plain A, A plain, or my daughter got B plain. That aspect of moral capacity and dedication and self-sacrifice has been lost. It's unfortunate, but it shouldn't be. So I think if you're asking me when looking back at how this was happening, I see that as something that is important. I have volunteered in mentoring young Kenyans.
Yes.
From my old school, the ones I've worked with, in many ways, and gotten them to either graduate school or training positions, and then into positions. Because that's I gained from that, and I find a certain sense of satisfaction in having come here at LF.
Yes.
Completely voluntary. There was no sitting allowance or that kind of nonsense, and it is not necessary if you really believe in what you're doing. And get an institution going and get young people to run it.
Yes.
You're giving advice and stepping back, and doing what you can, but also giving them contact, because that's also important.
Right.
And let them use your name also.
Yes.
Because it costs you nothing. So this kind of role for a young institution, for younger people, is something that you really have to love to do in your heart.
Yes.
And see it happen.
Yes.
And be happy about it. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning at independence. The idea was to succeed in building a new and happy African nation, which everybody that lived there, regardless of where they came from, would be proud.
Yes.
Yeah. There are some times when we looked like we were getting there, then there'll be setbacks. But I've not given up.
That's so encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
Perhaps, Prof, you can also tell us about, for the young people who are interested in serving this country, who have that love and desire to work in the public sector space, what skills are necessary? It's not an easy job. Sometimes it's a thankless job.
Yes.
And what skills do young people need to be working to develop now so that they can serve meaningfully in public service? I think,
Jerry, the first thing is that, and the most important thing is that you have to have love of country. I can say I was stunned by how much of it I've seen in these past 2 weeks. I had not expected that reservoir of love for country and dedication to it among young people. That's good for Kenya.
Right.
You have, if you want to go into public service, have that dedication. You have to have moral integrity to motivate you. So that when you achieve what you do, you know in your heart of hearts it was honestly achieved for yourself, and that more than that, it benefited others. You've got to have pride in seeing others succeed using public resources and public institutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And looking at your country and saying, well, that's good, because somebody else sacrificed before me, and I've kept this going.
Yes.
If you don't get satisfaction if you're not looking for satisfaction of that kind, you probably better keep out. It's a matter of dedication. You will never make the same kind of money as people who have gone into business, particularly if they're dishonest. And we've seen that a lot in this country. The important thing is, let us have people who have a moral commitment to what they do. I think that's the first thing.
Yes.
Then get the technical technical skills.
Right.
You have understanding. If you're going into law and law issues, get very good training in law.
Right.
If you're going to do economic policy, if you're going to do institutions, study what building institutional capacity is about. If you're going into distribution, gender equality and all those things which are so important now, The issues I'm talking about are young population, which is now all of a sudden the majority of in our country. Those are things you need to have technical skills and understanding of,
Yes.
and combine that with a moral commitment. You must have a commitment to a cause,
Wow.
then the skills to go around it.
Wow.
You never stop learning about these issues because there's never one answer which applies all the time.
Right.
And fortunately, I think in Kenya we have had so many people in the past who have been a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see a lot of Kenyans speaking highly of President Mwai Kibaki now. And I know very many others. I was writing last August an obituary of Harris Mule, who was a permanent secretary and treasurer for many years. To us, he was a very good example.
Wow.
And a mentor.
Yes.
And a good example of public servant.
Yes.
He achieved a lot for this country.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know him.
Yeah.
But I'm going to send you that article.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to share with our listeners.
Certainly, yeah.
There's this beautiful quote I came across that talks about the person who plants a tree.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily knowing that they will not enjoy the shade of that tree.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's what your public service journey has been
That's
like.
what public service is about.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, it's the same thing with teaching. When you teach young people about public service and so on, don't expect immediate results. Much later, they come to me and say, Prof, do you remember when you said this? Of course, I don't remember everything. And I say, yes. And I say, I've come to find in my career when I'm doing this is thank you very much.
Yes.
And we have a laugh.
Yes.
So the results are not immediate. We need to be patient. It will take time. Africa is in a very, very dicey situation right now.
Yeah.
Because it's not just Kenya. If you look at Ghana, Zambia, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, Chad, all of it, Nigeria, even South Africa, huge public debt, difficulties managing it, a lot of unemployment of youth, unavailability of good quality jobs. The economies are growing. This is not like the 70s and 80s when the economies were halting. But they're not providing an answer to a predominantly young, educated population.
Right.
How do we go over that? Plus, more of that. The world is also changing. Britain is not what it used to be. America is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
The international environment is not welcoming to new entrants into this.
Right.
America is pulling out of the world WTO. The trade regime in the world is changing.
Yes.
Even the human rights architecture globally that we relied upon all these years is declining in capacity because you say a view of leaders. You're talking about leaders in those countries, like you see in the US today, who couldn't care less about moral commitment to a global standard of human rights and human entitlements and the decent qualities of life for people. And it is hard, but I don't think that we should give up. Yeah.
As we conclude, a message of hope. I think we need to be hopeful in this time.
You have to.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
With so many young Kenyans out in the streets.
Yes. A message of
and
hope.
saying, I'm ready to give up my life. There's no more commitment to country than you can get than that.
Right.
So there's hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That is very exciting. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time, for such an amazing, amazing insights. So thank you very much for joining us. We are grateful to the Click Pictures team that's behind the cameras and making this happen, to the ELF team that supports. Come back again. We are continuing on our Excellence in Public Service series. Thank you.